Welcome back and thank you very much for joining me. My name is Swadik Mayanja and I am Q the Nurse. And on this channel, I bring you news, current events, research, and fun topics for nurses everywhere. Yes, it is a good day. It's a good week. It is Memorial Day weekend, which means summer is finally here, which means people are going swimming, which means you need to watch out. Alright? Because the CDC says to watch out for the pools. The CDC makes it absolutely official that the public pools are disgusting. Let's talk about why I would say such a daring thing in the beginning of the summer. The health agency revealed its findings in their Mortality and Morbidity Report, which explains why pools are ground zero for bacteria. Between 2000 and 2014, the CDC traced 493 outbreaks and over 27,000 cases of illnesses that could be connected to exposure to a public pool. The primary culprit was Cryptosporidium, a parasite found in feces that causes intestinal distress. The determined little bugs can survive for up to 7 days after encountering the CDC's recommended levels of 1 to 3 parts per million of free chlorine. You don't need to know what that means. All that actually means is it's supposed to be very, very little bit in the pool, but you will find out in the next couple of sentences that that is in fact not the case in the majority of pools that you and I have been to. Even if the pool is being cleaned and maintained properly, Cryptosporidium can idle long enough to infect someone else. The report also indicated that the bacteria that causes Legionnaire's disease was found in pools. So first of all, we know that that's just absolutely disgusting, all right? No one wants the fecal matter in the pool, right? You don't want to be swimming in all of that actual poo-poo. Continuing on. The problem is likely the result of swimmers entering the pool while suffering from an upset stomach and leaving trace fecal matter behind. The CDC recommends that you not enter a public pool if you feel unwell. That is, that you ask for a pool inspection report if you're concerned about the hygiene of the facility, and that you absolutely not swallow the water by any means necessary. So this is just a heads up for y'all. I know not everyone has the luxury of living close by to the beach when they want to swim. I know definitely not everyone has the luxury of owning their own pool. But when you do go to a public pool, ask them, what is the cleaning method here? What is the situation here? How often are you putting chlorine here? Obviously, there's a policy and there's a standard that all public pools must follow, but at least be knowledgeable about the situation. And if you are going to jump in the water, number one, don't be a douchebag and have diarrhea 3 days ago and then come to the pool and jump on in doing your cannonballs, butt cheeks spread and all. Don't be that guy. What you want to do is you want to be careful. It's 7 days. You have your upset stomach situation. Wait 7 days, wait a week. Just wait, let that shit clear out. Then go ahead and then jump into the pool. And then last but not least, the most important thing, whenever you're at the pool, it don't matter when you go. It don't matter the cleaning methods. It doesn't matter if you're sick or not. Do not swallow the water. Please, 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 do not swallow the water. All right. So let's talk about the eats, the hunger, the hangry folks out there. Europe is seen, a lot of people think of Americans, say, oh my goodness, Americans, they're so fat. They eat too much fried chicken. They eat too much McDonald's. Well, that shit's spreading, baby. And the countries, the continent, actually Europe in general, has been looked upon in, like, for the most part, as a super healthy continent. And a lot of those countries have been looked upon as great places to eat, and the way that their lifestyle is and what they choose to eat and the organic and the whatever. They've been looked at, they've been put on a pedestal, but sadly, some of those countries are falling off of that pedestal in a really bad way. The region prized for its healthy eating now has some of the most overweight kids in Europe. Let's find out where. So the Mediterranean diet, and we've all heard this diet, heavy on the veggies, heavy on the legumes, low on the red meats. It's like a vegetarian, vegan, light type of diet. It's been seen and like scientifically been proven in research study after research study that the Mediterranean diet is a very, very, very good diet, and it's healthy, and it keeps kids, it keeps people in general healthy, long life expectancy, the whole goddamn nine. But And people are not following through with that. People are opting out to stop at the drive-thru, and let's find out where. So the Mediterranean diet has long been pointed to by researchers as one of the most healthy ways to eat. The diet is known for its emphasis on vegetables and legumes, whole grains, and healthy fats like olive oil and fish, with minimal red meat, and yet children who live in Southern Europe appear to benefit from it the least. The least! Let's find out how. Data from the World Health Organization indicates that several southern European countries showed some of the highest rates of childhood obesity of the 38 European countries studied. In Greece, Italy, and Spain, 42% of boys are either overweight or obese. For girls, the rates were 38% in Greece and Italy and 41% in Spain. Those are some big numbers. 41%, 42%, they're nearing 50%. They're nearing half the population. So over a third of the population is, for both boys and girls, but more so on the boy side, is overweight or obese. That is a big deal. That is huge. Moving on, aside from those, the lowest rates of childhood obesity were found in countries like France, Norway, and Denmark. Good for them. They're still staying strong. But head of the World Health Organization European Office for Prevention and Control and Non-Communicable Diseases was quoted as saying, the Mediterranean diet for children in these countries is gone. There is no Mediterranean diet anymore. Those who are close to the Mediterranean diet are the Swedish kids. The Mediterranean diet is gone and we need to recover it. So it's not the diet. It's not that the diet has all of a sudden turned and, it's not doing the same things for our bodies that it used to. No. It's still the same. The people, the children, the population, the parents are deciding not to eat the Mediterranean diet. They're opting for drive-through. They're opting for the burgers, the fries, they joining us Americans. They're joining us Americans in our gluttonous ways, which is a sad situation. We never want to see this. I'm not happy that other countries are doing what we're doing or in the bad situation. I'm just putting it out there that the shit is spreading. I mean, as much as people want to be healthy, we all know being healthy is great and being healthy is the goal. But who are we kidding? Food that's bad for you tastes so much better. It's so much easier to get a hold of. It's everywhere. And these food companies, these fast food companies, all they want you to do is get addicted to their food, so they pump as much fat in it, they pump as much sugar in it, they pump all of the stuff that makes you crave and want it so bad. So it's not, yes, it's the people's fault, but it's such an easy trap. It's such an easy thing to fall into. Bad habits when it comes to eating, especially when it's so available all around you 24/7. Right? Whole Foods ain't open 24/7, but I promise you I can find a McDonald's open 24/7 5 minutes from me, and that's just a fact. And this is spreading worldwide. Moving on. So, a nurse has just gotten $28 million
$1 million
is insane. This is insane. So, let me tell you how this nurse actually in Boston, my home city, got $28. So a nurse who sued Boston Hospital was awarded the $28 million. A jury has ruled that a Boston hospital retaliated against a Haitian American nurse who stood up for a black colleague and has awarded her $28 million. She wanted to get a promotion. And when she was denied this promotion, she said, oh my goodness, I think it's because I'm black. I'm not sure why. My credentials are all there. I've been here for a long time. The whole goddamn nine. I'm a great nurse. Why am I not getting the promotion? I think it's racial bias. I think they're doing it because I'm black. Right? And then the second nurse, the nurse that won the $28 million, stood up for that nurse. Right? And when the hospital retaliated against the nurse that stood up for the nurse that couldn't get the... Let me just tell you the nurse who got the $28 million. Her name is Gessie Toussaint. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably not. But, so, Ms. Toussaint, when she stood up for the nurse that didn't get the promotion, the hospital retaliated against her. She took it to court. The jury awarded her $28 million. That is absolutely insane. So Ms. Toussaint's attorney described Wednesday's verdict against Brigham and Women's Hospital as monumental. Oh, of course it is. That's a big load of money. The Boston Globe reports that Toussaint also had accused the hospital of racial discrimination, but the jury did not find the proof of that claim. Toussaint says that the retaliation started after she defended a Haitian American nurse, Nerva Bethold, who also is suing the hospital. Bethold says she was denied a promotion because she is black. That claim is still pending. I live in Boston. It's a very, especially when you go into the city where Brigham and Women's is, it's very diverse. There's a whole lot, many cultures and ethnic groups and races, of course. This is the first time I'm hearing of a very big case. Obviously, I don't know every racial or, civil court case that's happened in the nursing facility in Boston, but this is the first time I'm hearing of a big one. I haven't seen any racial biases or discrimination in any of the hospitals I've worked at, in any of the facilities I've worked at. I haven't heard from nurses that work at Brigham Women's, Boston Medical, Children's Hospital, all those hospitals. I haven't heard of it. But that does not mean it doesn't exist. We don't know what happens, but we do know that the jury found that the information was enough for her to be awarded $28 million, so it must have been something serious, right? The entire jury decided that she deserves this money. So I'm thinking that something happened. Is it a full-blown racial bias? We hate black people? I think not. But there is definitely something there. But don't you think for 1 second Brigham Women's is going over and just going to cough up that $28 million to a single nurse? What they're actually gonna do is they putting in for an appeal. So we'll see where this goes. She hasn't gotten the money yet, but we'll see what happens next. I'll hopefully, if I find out, we can do an update next week or whenever this fire drops. Being a nurse, we all know that patients get super comfortable with us, right? So you walk into a patient's room, literally within, I'd say within 30 minutes, you get to see this patient naked, right? So the boundaries of nurse-patient, communication is, there's not much, right? So we really get right into there. We talk about their most private things. We talk about suicidal ideation. We talk about their sexual history. We talk about the drugs they use. So obviously, a lot of these patients are going to be like, I can tell this nurse anything. But wait! This patient, I'm happy he told this nurse this because he got convicted and, he's in jail right now. But this patient felt comfortable enough with his nurse where he told her that he committed a murder. How? Why would you do such a thing? Why would you commit a murder and then confess it to the nurse? It's because nurses are just that kind of profession where you feel like you can say these things. But understand, we are mandatory reporters. If you tell us anything that puts yourself in harm or other people in harm, or if you've harmed other people or you've harmed yourself, we are mandated to report this. So as open as we are, as much information as we want from you, understand we have to report what we have to report. So let me tell you about this story. A jury found a man guilty after he confessed to murder on his hospital bed. Thursday, Frank Fermenta was convicted of killing Wilfred Sales. Salas's body was found in a road in 2016 and no one knew what happened. No one knew who killed him. It was just his body was there. We didn't know what happened. He told a nurse he killed someone a few months back and wanted to clear his conscience. Fermenta says he killed Salas in self-defense after the two argued and Salas pulled out a knife. His sentencing is scheduled for July. He faces 34 years behind bars. Understand something. I hear a lot of people always talk about self-defense. But a true self-defense situation is, yeah, you lose your mind, you're in a fight, someone punches you, you punch them back, even if you use deadly force, whatever the situation is. But if it is self-defense, and if it's not premeditated, and if you're not a crazy son of a bitch, I know you're scared of the consequences, but you need to report it when it happens. You need to say, holy shit, we're in a fight, look at the scars that happened to me, I didn't mean to kill him, but it was an accident. After he fought, I fought, we fought, and then someone died. That is what you call self-defense, because then you pick up the phone right away and you say, 911, I was in this fight, this person died, and you go through the process. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is, yes, tell your nurses everything and all you want, but understand we are mandatory reporters. We have to tell the higher ups, we have to call the law enforcement, we have to do what we have to do to keep you and the community safe. So if you're going around committing murders, don't go to a hospital and tell a nurse. Actually, go ahead and tell the nurse, because we want you off the streets. Moving on. This is some futuristic shit, which I think is absolutely amazing. Ingestible sensors electronically monitor your gut. Understand? So we all know what happens when you turn 50. You have to get a colonoscopy. And why do you have to get a colonoscopy? Because colon cancer is rampant, right? And we need to make sure every 5 years you get this checkup to make sure that there's no polyps, that there's nothing growing, that there's no anything in there that should not be there, right? So this is what happens when we get older. But this might not have to happen. You in the future, you will not have to be drinking that nasty ass juice for 24 hours and then get a camera stuck up your bum hole. That is no more if this thing continues. So an ingestible sensor, pill-sized electronics that ping your smartphone when data after you pop one and swallow, have started to arrive on the market. They don't do much yet. Mostly they measure pH, temperature, and pressure, or monitor whether or not a patient has taken their meds, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. But researchers are cooking up novel sensing technologies to detect much broader range of medical molecules. And I think this is amazing. So that last part about it can sense if you've taken your meds or not, I think is phenomenal. I don't know how long this thing stays in the system. It doesn't have too many details. It's just in the beginning stages. But I see a whole lot of greatness with this thing happening. You can just like you do your hemoglobin A1C to see if your patient's been keeping up with their diet for the month or two, right? For the diabetics. This is like a way to tell if your patients have been taking any and all of the medication just by putting this electronic pill in your gut. I think it's awesome. Technology is amazing. I love this stuff. The one thing that, if you continue, I'll put the link down below and read the article. The one thing that they're concerned about is, number one, how long is it going to stay in the system? And number two, what about, like, it charging? And actually, it needs a battery. It needs to be in there for a while. It needs to be functioning for a while. And they need to figure out what is that going to do to the actual gut. Is that going to be any problems? What happens if it cracks open? What happens if you're in an accident? There's a whole lot of things that they need to get over before this goes worldwide. But it's happening soon, and I'm excited. No more colonoscopies. Hopefully by the time I'm 50, I just need to take a little tiny pill and no one's putting nothing up my bum holes. Alright, so let's talk about insurance and healthcare. It's a scary and it's a shitty situation, and it's never good because it's the worst. The American healthcare system is just a fucking mind fuck. And this is coming from someone who actually works in the healthcare system. So if you're not a nurse, if you're not a healthcare provider, if you don't deal with insurance on a day-to-day, I don't expect you to know as much as me, and even as much as I know, it's so much that you can't understand it. You can't wrap your head around it, and this is the reason they do it, is because they can slip in these crazy bills and cost you a fortune for going to the goddamn hospital. So let me give you a little bit of a story, and this happens to many people. It's anecdotal, but there's a research. Just hear me out. So there's a man that went into an in-network emergency center, which means he had health insurance. He went to an emergency room, and that emergency room was part of his healthcare plan, right? They said that hospital works with his healthcare plan. He still ended up with a bill that was $7,924. Insanity. So January 28th, 34-year-old Scott Cohen woke up in his emergency room in downtown Austin, Texas, with his jaw broken in two places, the result of this violent attack the night before. Witnesses called 911, which dispatched an ambulance that brought him to a hospital, and he was unconscious. When he woke up, the first thing he did was grab his iPhone. Lying in there with a broken jaw, I go to the Humana website and see the hospital listed. So I figured, okay, I should be good. Except he wasn't. While the emergency room where Cohen was seen was in his hospital's, in his insurance's network, the oral surgeon who worked on him in the ER was not. That's how Cohen ended up with the basically $8,000 bill. So this was a report done by Vox, and they did a really good thing, and they have been doing a really good thing, and that's the reason they've been able to tell the story, is because for the past couple of months they've been collecting data. on this specific issue on patients going to emergency rooms and getting astronomical high prices. And fun fact, this has actually happened to me. I'll tell you that in a little bit. In the past 6 months, Vox has collected more than 1,300 emergency room bills submitted by readers in all 50 states and Washington, D.C. as part of an investigation into emergency room billing practices. The University of Missouri, Kansas City, published a study last year that found as many as 1 in 5 emergency room visits led to a surprise bill from an out-of-network provider involved in the care. So understand this, even if you're a patient, and you do everything right, you get into a car accident, you're in pain, you're hurting, you need to go to the emergency room. There's 3 hospitals. The hospital furthest away is the one in your network, so you decide to take the drive in pain or get an Uber in pain or have someone come pick you up in pain and go to your network hospital. You do all of this because you don't want to face the astronomical charges of going to an out-of-network hospital. You go there, but once you get to the emergency room, everything that the nurses do, everything that the doctors do that are in network are good. But if you need emergency surgery, if you need something, and an out-of-network doctor, a surgeon, or provider is at the hospital that is in network, you still get charged for everything that specific provider does on you for you, which is mind-numbing, and it is so frustrating. And understand why. The question is, why can't all the doctors who are in the hospital be just in the network? Yes, technically, the vast majority of the doctors that are at the hospital are in network. That's a fact. But if you need a specialist, if you are a cancer patient and they need a special surgeon, if you need a special doctor, if you need a special eye doctor, whatever, if you need a specialist and they come to that hospital for you, or they're just doing the care rounds for those cancer patients, eye patients, whatever patients, and that doctor is not part of the network, but the hospital needs them to take care of the patients, they still need to be there. So you can't blame the doctors. It's not the doctor's fault. Right? They have the choice. Yes, technically they have the choice, and I don't know the details about that. Hopefully one day we can ask and find out. But it's not their fault. And it is just it's a lose-lose situation. Right? The insurers don't give a shit. They really don't care. They definitely not gonna pay for an out-of-network doctor. They give you the information beforehand, telling you that these are the doctors. Not these are the doctors. They tell you these are the providers that are in network. These are the providers that are out of network. And yes, technically, it is your job to figure that out. But once I step into a hospital that is in network, you better believe I expect everything in that hospital to be considered in network. It's a shitty situation. I don't know what the answer is outside of universal healthcare, outside of a single payer system for the whole country. Outside of something simple where you're not doing calculations while your arm is half off of your body because you're trying to figure out who the goddamn hell is in network. This is so frustrating. It is just really, really frustrating. The amount of back work you have to do on top of the crazy prices you are already paying for insurance to make sure you're not paying an extra $1,000, $7,000, $8,000 because a doctor at an emergency room that is in network is out of network. I'm sorry for getting loud. I'm sorry about this craziness. It's just, you hear stories like this every single day. Oh my goodness, I've been paying for this medical visit or emergency room for 5 years now. I've been paying a $10,000 bill because I went to the emergency room when I was vacationing in Florida. You hear these stories all day, every day. And like as a nurse, you hear patients tell you, yep, I'm not taking that medication. It's too expensive. Yep, my insurance is not covering this treatment. I'm not doing it. Yep, my insurance. And it's like, fuck. Do we really have to balance how much we make with the health of ourselves and our families? Is that like, why? Why do we want that? So let's move to a little bit of lighter moves because now I'm all worked up and I need to bring it down a notch. I hear you. I know. I got you. So we're going on back to my best friends on Reddit. Yes, my Redditors. Question of the week from the Redditors themselves. If you want anything answered honestly, the raw truth that humanity has to offer, there is only one place on this planet that you can go to find the real, raw, unfiltered truth. And that, my friends, is Reddit. And the question this week, nurses of Reddit, despite being ranked the most trusted profession for 15 years in a row, make that 16, homie. What are the dirty secrets y'all never tell your patients? That is a great question. And oh my goodness, there were like 1,000 comments under the Ask Reddit. So I might do this part too, and this time I just have some five. I have 5 of my few favorites when I looked at just reading a little bit of it. Okay. So mascara_flakes says, I would much rather be doing the dressing changes and bathing my incapacitated sweet patient next door than getting you coffee and your 6th ice cream of the morning, you non-compliant fuckface. Preach, girl. So, see, that's the thing, right? As a nurse, we coming to work because we want to do patient care. We want to care for the patient. We want to educate the patient. We want to help with the patient's health. If you're asking me to do things like get the coffee, if you're asking me to do things like I want some crackers or put butter on my bread or help me clean up my room or call my sister from out of town or all of these things, and yes, it's helpful, and yes, we do it, and yes, it's part of the job, and yes, we want to be there for you. But understand, if you're that one patient that's calling every 10 minutes, every 5 minutes, every 1 second, it gets frustrating. When we need to do actual patient care and you're clicking that call bell, it is frustrating. But at the same time, on the patient side, I know for you, it's also extremely frustrating because I can't imagine being in a bed and having to click for everything I need. I know when I'm at home, I'm in the kitchen 6 times a day. I'm in the bathroom 12 times a day. I'm like getting up 15 times a day. And if we have a bed alarm on you, we can't blame you for wanting to do stuff. But these are our dirty secrets, all right? So I'm not gonna be apologizing for each one of these things, all right? All right? Let me just get through this, and this is my venting time. Let me be. Fact Nugget says, I worked as a director of nursing and also as a nursing case manager. Patients are often looked at as nothing more than currency in the world of healthcare administration. Patients are regularly discharged from hospitals prematurely due to concerns of the cost of care. This is serious. So this is a dirty secret that is actually serious. And I don't think it's too much of a dirty secret because we've come to know this. In the story right before this, I was screaming my lungs out because it's super frustrating when all we talk about when it comes to healthcare, all we talk about is the cost. We want quality of care. We want the patients to have the best outcomes in the world. Of course we do. Of course we do. Having a readmit is much worse than having a patient stay an extra day or two and then them feeling better and then going home and being healthy, right? We want the best for you, for the community. But at the same time, everything about healthcare runs on a budget, on a dime. So these things, at some point, at the patient care level for most, I'd say 99% of the nurses that do actual patient care, it's like 80% about the patient care than 20 about the money. The higher up you go, the less patient care you do, the less interaction you have with the actual patients, the more about the money it becomes. Right? But that it's not their fault. It's their job. It's the nurse manager's job. It's the nurse CNO's job to make sure that they're getting enough money in, as well as putting in to care for these patients, to keep the lights on, to keep the hospital running. So I'm not naive as to say we need to just spend $1 million on each patient until they get better, but this is just the reality of the situation. Moving on. Red Hat Oops says, my wife's a nurse. During the night shift, she talked about other nurses going and finding empty rooms and taking extended naps and shifts. It irked her since she has a solid work ethic, but she isn't the kind to speak up. I don't know why that irks her. So the thing is, it's like I worked night shift for a full month. And I know it gets extremely, especially if you're working on a unit where it's like mobile patients, they're good, they walkie-talkie, they do their own thing. If they're sleeping at night and from like 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. when they are absolutely sleeping, you have no meds to pass, there's nothing going on. Yeah, nurses fall asleep. Working the night shift ain't easy. So Are they supposed to sleep? No, but nurses also do get a break. And at the time I was at my job, where nurses were taking naps, they were taking naps during their break. So I don't know why that's an issue. I don't know why that's a problem. Maybe at my old job, nurses weren't going into empty patient rooms. That's not. I've never seen that. I think that's a little much. But at the same time, I don't blame them. If they get a 30, 45-minute break and they're working a 12-hour shift and it's overnight, go ahead and take your nap. Do you, boo-boo? Do you? And I love this one. I think this is one of my favorites. He-Mash says, if you are, and quote, dying because I hurt so bad, and then tell me your pain level's a 10, yet you're on your phone laughing and you're on Facebook, I am not sympathetic. You'll get your pain meds, of course you will, but it's gonna take a few extra minutes. And if I've got someone on the floor because with their blood sugar in the 30s, you're gonna wait a little bit longer. And don't even think about giving me a lecture on how to do my job. I am your nurse. I am here to take care of your ass, not to kiss it. I am not your slave. I am not your personal servant. I'm sure as hell not your maid. And don't tell me how your kid or your mom or your sister or your best friend is a nurse and they do things different. I do my job the way I was trained to do it. I've got 35 to 40 residents on any given night. It's just me. I love my job and I love my residents. But damn it, sometimes I want to scream. Ooh, girl, preach! Preach! Do you, boo-boo? Yes! So I'm pretty sure every single nurse has been in the situation where they have a patient where it's like, oh my God, I'm in 1,000, I'm in a 10 out of 10, I'm in a 20 out of 10 pain. It's the worst, it's the worst. You leave the room, you come back in like 5 minutes with the pain meds and they're chatting up with their sister, they're chatting up with their friend, they're chatting up, they're hanging out, they're walking around, they're on their laptops. It's like, you're not in 10 out of 10 pain. And if you are in 10 out of 10 pain, especially if I do bring the medication, don't start lecturing me. That is the absolute last thing you're about to do, homie. That's the last thing you're about to do. I think she said it beautifully. I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you very much. And then last but not least, Damn Dog. He says, not really a dirty secret, but when you're naked in front of medical personnel, we don't care that you're naked. And literally 40 seconds after you're clothed or no longer in our presence, whichever happens first, we've forgotten what you look like naked. You only remember what people look like naked because you've seen a small number of naked people. We see naked people all the time, and yeah, whatever. That's a penis. There's boobs. Look at that anus. Stretch marks, fat folds, whatever. And I love that. And that's the truth. You gotta understand, that is the goddamn truth. We see so many naked people every single day. You have no idea. Yeah, so when we see you naked, it's like, I know it's awkward, and it is awkward. Like for me, it's awkward when I'm telling like one of my female patients, I need to put my telly on you. I need to look at your backside for nasal bed sores. We need to do a full body check. I have to put in a catheter. Yeah, it's awkward when I'm having that conversation. But literally the second it happens, I'm like, whatever. It's over. It's done. Who gives two shits? Right? It's over. We're almost there, team. Just a couple of crazy stories, and then we have the nurse of the week. This is a crazy story. I find this to be a little insane. So there's a doctor, a plastic surgeon, that's in the surgery room, in the OR, doing her thing. But not only is she doing her thing, she's having a goddamn party in there. So the headline of the story is, Doctor sued after video in operating room dancing. And I was like, all right, calm the fuck down. All right. You guys all seen the Grey's Anatomies and all of that stuff in the TV shows where all these doctors have these surgeons have music in the background. And that's a real thing. I've been in a couple of ORs in my life, and yes, they do play some music, and it calms the situation, especially if it's a routine surgery. But when you see what this young lady has been doing in her OR, this is not dancing. This is a goddamn party. The only thing they're short of is fucking popping bottles and, champagne all over the place. That's the only thing short of a goddamn party. Let me show you the videos and I'll give you some context.
I'm about to cut it.
So Dr. Wendell is facing several malpractice lawsuits. So you see that. You see this craziness. What in the goddamn world are they doing? And the thing is, it's one thing if they're doing this and nothing bad is happening, but all of this dancing and partying and craziness is happening in the hospital, and the patients are getting some bad results. So let me give you some details. Dr. Wendell is facing several malpractice lawsuits after posting a series of videos showing her dancing in the operating room while her performing surgery on the patients. And that's the worst part. That's the worst part. That's not the worst part. The worst part is the patient's effect after the situation. But that's a horrible situation. If you're going to dance in the OR, go ahead. Put your scrubs on. Be in the OR with no patients in there and start doing your dancing. Right? That works fine. But if you're going to go in the OR and you're doing surgery on someone and they're exposed on the goddamn table and you're over here dancing and booty shaking and your teeth, it's like, what? Why? To the plastic surgeon who filmed herself singing and dancing while patients were exposed on the operating table is now facing several lawsuits. And she recently settled one case after a patient allegedly suffered catastrophic brain damage during a tummy tuck procedure. I don't know what was going on with this tummy tuck procedure, but I'm guessing she fucked up in some way, got infected, and that infection went in the bloodstream, and that bloodstream went to the brain, and that caused the brain damage. And if that happens, that is a huge lawsuit. She settled that case. So we know she's had a malpractice situation in the past. That doesn't mean, if you have a malpractice case as your doctor, it doesn't mean you're a horrible doctor. But she has several. And if you have several malpractice cases and you're doing these crazy dances while your patients are exposed and you're publicly putting it on social media, you probably should not be a doctor. You probably should not be doing surgery. This ain't the right thing for you, right? On top of all of this, she's also using staff. Her team are not qualified to do what they're supposed to do. So lawsuits have alleged that Dr. Wendell used staff with hazy qualifications, including a nurse manager that wasn't actually a nurse. Fake nurse alert, fake nurse alert. Another fake nurse, and the fact that she hired this nurse, probably paying her less than she would pay a nurse. This just sounds like a really bad situation. And a surgical assistant who had a Peruvian medical license, but was not licensed in the U.S. according to Atlanta Journal consultation. Dr. Wendell and her staff are more concerned about increasing profits versus the focus on patient safety. I am all for letting this doctor lose her license, no more surgeries. I mean, it's one thing, like I said, to have a good time on your surgery, lighten up the mood, have some music in the background. And that's what I thought when I read the headline. And that's why I was like, my initial thing is always to defend the healthcare provider because I assume the best. I assume common goddamn sense. But this lady is through this wall. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, just look at the video one more time.
His oblique waistline snatched. Got a banging body and a smile to match.
Yeah, great dance moves. But it does not belong in an OR while your goddamn patient's on the table. Ridiculous, ridiculous. Is she sterile? Is she still sterile? You tell me. All right. Last story of the day. My favorite portion segment of the day. Nurse of the week. Nurse of the week. This week goes to Linda Sarna. The dean of the UCLA School of Nursing recently received the 2018 Oncology Nursing Society Lifetime Achievement Award. Ms. Sarna was recognized for her leadership of the society's 39,000 members and for her outstanding career contributions to the field of oncology nursing. Sarna's research involves patients with lung cancer and families and the role of oncology nurses in tobacco control. She has mentored generations of nursing students and researchers across the country and around the world and has collaborated with national and international nursing organizations on policies related to nurses and tobacco control. Let me just finish this up real quick. We're almost there, team. As the co-founder of Tobacco-Free Nurses, Sarna has led translational research research projects to increase nursing interventions to treat tobacco dependence in the US, China, and Europe using online educational programs and resources. She also chaired the committee that led to UCLA's distinction as the first tobacco-free university of California campus in 2013. I have to say, the reason I've chosen her, yes, she won 2018 Oncology Nurse of the Year award, but I usually do the Nurse of the Week of some heroic nurse that does some heroic shit and saves some life and does some CPR and does it out of work, then adopts a child, does all of this crazy, caring, actual patient cares type of stuff. But we have to understand something. That is what nurses have been doing since the dawn of nursing. These nurses, these researchers, these educators, these are the nurses that are taking us nurses today into the future. They're expanding the reach and the scope of practice of what nurses can do. They're at the cutting edge of not just nursing, but of patient care, of science, of research. And that's why I think Miss Sarna, Nurse Sarna, deserves Nurse of the Week. Congratulations. You're awesome. You're the future. Outside of bedside nursing, I think that nurses that do research are phenomenally important, are phenomenal human beings, and they're super important for the future of healthcare and the future of nurses. Thank you guys again for watching. I really do appreciate this. I'm going to ask you guys to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not tired, if you didn't fall asleep yet, if you're still watching, God damn it, bless you. I am going to end this week's nursing news with a Nurse Flicks episode. I haven't had a Nurse Flicks episode in a couple of weeks, and this time it's a Netflix series. And I thought I watched it last night, and I'm like, my goodness, I gotta talk about this. I love this, and I can't wait to talk about all of the episodes. So, if you were just here for the news, thank you. Deuces, catch you later. If you're sticking around for the Nurse Flicks, I love ya. So the Nurse Flicks series that I'm watching, it's like a docu-series. It's like it's by Vox, and it's called Explained. And they go through these topics, and the first episode is about monogamy. And I loved it, and it makes so much sense, right? Because we love to think of love and partnership and caring and marriage and all of this stuff as like a human being way, as the natural way. And in fact, it is the furthest thing from natural. It's the furthest thing from natural. And let me give you a quote that they mentioned in the beginning of the episode that I think wraps it up in an absolute nutshell, and I loved it. One of the commentators was saying, monogamy is not love, because we think of them as the same thing, but it's not. Monogamy is not love. Love is a feeling. Love is it's that inside, it's the butterflies, it's the gooey feeling, it's the attraction. That is love. And monogamy is a rule. That right there makes sense, right? Because we think of love, if you love me, you'll only be with me. No, if I love you, I have that feeling for you. Only being with you is the rule that we have communicated to saying that that's a rule that we're going to stick with because of the feelings I have, right? So the monogamy is the rule, the love is the feeling, and I love that they said that. So the way that the episode went, they talked about the history of human beings. So we were hunters and gatherers far longer than we were actually in an industrialized agricultural situation here on Earth, right? As human beings, it says we've been human beings in our bodies for 300,000 plus years. I think that's what they said. I don't know if it's factual. But for the majority of that time, I'd say 80%, 90% of that time, for 200,000 plus years, like 250,000 plus years, we were hunter-gatherers. And during the time of being hunter-gatherers, obviously we don't have a docu-series following the hunter-gatherers around, but they found out that the way that these cultures used to work, based on the Europeans that were industrialized, and when they went over and fucked everyone else up, and they documented the other cultures. Yes, I said fucked everyone else because that's just the history of the world. But when they went over and they documented some of these native cultures, what they noticed when they met the majority of these hunter-gatherers at the time, they documented that, yes, many women would be pregnant and have sex with many men. And the way that the tribe worked, the way that the community worked is that all the men that has had sex with that one female would treat that one child as their kid. So it would be that one mom with 3, 4, 5 different dads. And it was seen as every child in the community was a child of the community. It wasn't like, oh my goodness, this baby is crying, go get someone's mom. That baby is hurt, go get someone's dad. It was like, no, that baby's in pain, that baby's hurting, that child is hurting, that person is hurting. I'm the closest human being to him. I am going to parent this child. I am going to parent this kid. And that's for the longest time how it worked. And yes, that is helpful, but 7 billion people on the planet, that can't work today. That is not what happens today. Moving on with time, once we got out of the hunter-gatherer situation, people got much more obsessed with property. They started holding on to things. They're saying, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. And then marriage became much more of a financial, of a, what is it called? Negotiating tool to get like Cleopatra and, Alexander the Great. They weren't madly in love. Maybe they were. Who the fuck knows? But what we do know is that the Egyptians were super powerful and the Romans were super powerful. So what would be even more powerful than the Egyptians and the Romans? Them together. And that's what marriage was for a longer time after the hunter-gatherer time. And it was very... I give you this, you give me that, let's put our team together, we'll do that through marriage, right? You want some more money, I want some protection. We want to end this war, we want to start a war. That was what marriage was for the longest time. And then in the 1700s, it finally came to the situation where there were options and like, yes, you want to fall in love and it wants to be about the feelings, and marriage wasn't a thing to, grab money. Marriage wasn't, it was all about, love. That's when our version of marriage started. And then it ended. Towards the end of the video, they talked about humans compared to the rest of the animal kingdom. And yes, we are in fact the only species that does believe in monogamy, that practices monogamy. And I think that's amazing, right? I think it's crazy. And but that's the beauty of us human beings. We are able to do what is unnatural. And one of the doctors said that, and I was like, yes! That is why we have what we have. Houses are natural. Cars are natural. What I was worried about getting into this video and like halfway through this video was that they were down-putting monogamy and they were like, yeah, it's not natural. It's not natural. Polyamorous is like the way to go. Like, we need to be free. But they're not. What they're saying is we are at a place, we human beings, we are intelligent enough to figure out situations, to do things unnaturally, to make it a better situation for everyone, for ourselves and the community that we're a part of, right? So if we tried to practice the hunter-gatherer way, where it was everyone have sex with everyone and every baby's, it just wouldn't work, especially with the culture we have, how we treat property and all of this stuff. Yes, being in a really great neighborhood is great, but are you going to let your neighbor fuck your wife? Are you going to let your neighbor have sex with your husband? No! That is not what's going to happen, right? But we also, and at the end they also talked there. They had couples there. You can't pretend that you don't have that feeling that you get when you love someone. A lot of that feeling is possession. You want that person with you all the time, 24/7, to yourself. So we can't pretend that love is by itself, and then the feeling of jealousy and possession is another thing. They're very intertwined. When you love someone, you want them to yourself all day, every day. And if that person is doing something else, having sex with someone else, spending time with someone else, going out with someone else, being extremely happy with someone else, yes, you do feel jealous. And that is the truth, and that's why I loved it, and that's the reason I decided to make this video. I love this. I'm going to watch all of the other episodes, and I will be doing a Netflix, a nurse flicks about this series, and I've been trying to find a series to do it. I'm not a huge TV watcher. I watch only the big superhero movies, and that's why I've been doing superhero movies. Of course, I'll be doing the Game of Thrones reviews when the next season comes out next year. But Until then, when I find something I love, I will share it with y'all. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. If you watched the whole nursing news, if you didn't and you're just watching Nurse Flicks, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me if you watch it. Tell me if you didn't watch it. Tell me if you believe in the future being polyamorous, if you believe in the future being monogamous. I think my personal belief is we just need to be in a future where they don't need to be a law about who can marry who, about how many sex partners you can have, about how strict your relationship needs to be. We need to be in a future where we can decide, right? And that last, I have to say this again. I'm sorry it's taking so long, but one of the commentators also said, and this spoke to me personally because I am a vegan. He said, like, being monogamous is like being vegetarian or being vegan. You can do it because it's better for your health. It's better for the planet. It's good for you. You might feel better. It might be healthier. It is 1,000% better for you, right? You can do these things. But even if you do all of that, that doesn't mean bacon doesn't smell good. That doesn't mean chicken doesn't taste good. That doesn't mean all of that food you choose not to eat is really delicious, is really great, is fun to have, it's yummy. And that's exactly how you should think of being in a monogamous relationship. Yes, you can choose to be in a relationship because you love that person so much and you put that rule there that you should stick together and only together. You can choose to be with one person. You can choose to be with that same person because you can put all of your effort into just your kids and you don't have to spread the love for kids in the entire world. But that doesn't mean when you see a hot young man walking down the street, you don't get excited. That doesn't mean that that the sexy lady that is attracted to you wants to have sex with you and you have to reject him. All of that stuff is still going to happen, but you've made the decision to be monogamous. You've made the decision to be vegetarian. Thanks you guys again for watching. Tell me what you think. Polyamorous, monogamy, do you like it? Do you want to watch it? Have you watched it? In the comment section below. Catch y'all on the flip. Deuces.